And the
All
recording.
right.
All right.
Well, hello. My name is Anthony Renteria,
And I am
and
David.
with yes. See, yeah, I need to get better at that. Anyways, this is episode one of Cineverm. Today we are talking about A Quiet Place 2, and we're just gonna jump immediately into it. Well, actually, beforehand, I'm curious because you didn't see A Quiet Place 1 when it first came out, right?
No, I did not. I didn't have any interest in seeing the first one when it came out. I don't know why. It just seemed too um, uh, gimmicky to me. That's why I didn't see
Yeah.
it, I think. But I did finally watch it in anticipation
Interesting.
of this review.
Interesting. All right. So I guess let's briefly talk about the first one because, in a way, these films are extremely connected without like spoiling anything. I mean, it, this film, well, actually, I can't spoil anything. Anyways, what was
It's a
your opinion of,
continuation. I mean, you can say it's a
yeah,
direct
yeah,
continuation right after the first film.
yeah. What did you think of the first one, I guess, like briefly?
Yeah. I mean, I am a little. I gotta admit, I don't want to be like overly critical, but I'm a little confused. I guess just to ease into this, I am confused about the hype. Like, I was reading Rotten Tomato reviews for the first one, and I'm just like, dang, like people really like this movie. Like lots of people are like really like this movie, and were like super hyped for the sequel and everything. And I guess I didn't understand if I didn't if I didn't know that this movie was like a big hit. I think I would
Mhm.
just assume that this was just like another kind of just like a Blumhouse kind of horror movie that's like low, but they make them really cheap, but they have enough of a gimmick or something to keep people interested, and they're always kind of decently made, but they're obviously kind of cheap and low budget on
Mhm.
purpose. And not that this one felt like overly low budget or anything. It's just I don't know. Like I that's my general impression was like that was that was A Quiet Place, like the movie that people were just like raving, like oh my gosh, this is such a great concept and such a tight. Like I saw that somewhere that the script won some award or something, not like an Oscar or anything, but it's just some script writing award, and I'm just like really like I don't know. So that was my general, and then the movie when it ended, the first one just very suddenly, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like so that's my general thoughts about the first movie were like meh, just like a big
Yeah.
meh. I mean, do you want me to give it a rating or
I mean, you don't have to, or if you want to, that'd be cool too.
yeah
I
my
actually haven't thought of a rating for the
my I
first
mean
one.
my rating for the first one was is a solid 5 out of 10. It was just like
Oh, wow.
just
Yeah.
average, like very average movie. It didn't do anything like horribly wrong. There wasn't anything
Yeah.
horribly wrong with it, but there wasn't anything super special about it or memorable. So it's just right. That's what my 5 out of 10 is. Because everyone has different rating systems. I guess I should just establish that my a 5 out of 10 for me is just like one of those movies that you just turn your brain off and you watch, and nothing bothers you that much, and it's decently. It's just a very movie. It's just it's just a very bland movie that just
Yeah,
pat.
like a mediocre, average,
Yep.
run of the mill. Like it's not offensively bad or
No, it's just yeah, exactly. Just a completely average movie. That's a 5 out of 10 for me. So what?
that's interesting.
Yeah,
Like it's interesting because like the history of this, like how you're saying there's so much hype, and I feel like this was one of the first films that used how you're saying like this kind of concept. I mean, it's obviously not the first film to use this concept, but like in like recently, like the whole pitch of the film was so focused on you have to be quiet, And I feel like the marketing team behind the first one and I guess this one as well, it's like they did such a good job at like hyping up the film about using silence and sound as this, like like I think maybe you might disagree, but I think the concept itself in a film is like pretty brilliant because I feel like sound does way more than a lot of people think when you're watching a film.
yeah, definitely. I
And
mean, the gimmick of it, like the initial idea, is interesting, and
yeah,
And from what I read, like I don't know how in depth you want to get right now, but I mean, from what I read, the original, the two guys, I think John Krasinski also contributed to the script for the first one, but like the two guys that wrote it,
Mhm.
like I mean, it sounded like they wanted they wanted to go even more extreme with that and have literally like no sound in the entire, like no dialogue at all in the
Yeah,
entire movie. So, but I'm sure the studio turned that down. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I could see this being an even more interesting like indie movie, but because it was a studio movie, got watered down a little bit. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah. And that's if you listen to our intro episode previous to this, I bring up that I wanted to talk about like the Miyazaki thing and just how you said like this, well, the first film and I guess the second one, but well, just the first film in general, like I feel like it would have just been so amazing if it was like kind of that indie vibe where it is extremely quiet. Because like you're saying, it does feel kind of like a gimmick when it's like they're cutting the audio in and out, and like
Yeah.
I get why they're doing it, and but it's like they do it in the most obvious
Mm-hmm.
places, so it feels like when you're watching, you're like, oh, like yeah, yeah, of course you would cut the audio, or like this
Mm-hmm.
is when you play static and then you hear static, or this is when you hear that leaf crunch really loud out of all the other sound effects throughout the whole film. But yeah, but the first film, my experience, I really liked it the first time I watched it. I watched it in the theaters, and it was pretty glorious experience because literally everyone in the theater was like dead silent, which
Mm.
is the only time that has ever happened in a theater in Alabama. And like no one said anything, like no one even people had popcorn and sodas and no one drank anything or ate anything
Yeah.
throughout the whole film.
I
It was
read
like,
I read that when I was looking up stuff about the movie that originally like I don't know, I read something, I think it was on IMDb or whatever, that the movie theaters didn't like this movie because it had very reduced food and like concession stand sales because people didn't want to be loud. They didn't want to be the loud one, like crunching on their food. Yeah, so that's interesting.
yeah, and it I will say the first one and the second one because I watched the second one in the theaters. It works way more in the theaters, but it like when I rewatched it today before watching the second one and yeah, I agree with basically everything you said. Like it does feel kind of like that B tier movie, like that Blumhouse, like just that cool concept and then it's kind of rushed to production. Like there isn't that deeper thought or like there is a lot of thought,
Yeah.
and I feel like especially in the second one, and we'll get into it here in a second, that it's like too much thought, and it's too
Okay.
much thought on the dumb stuff.
Ah,
It's like the things you want someone to think about they don't think about, and the things that I don't know, it's stressful, but yeah, I agree. I would give the first film, I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10 because I think one of the best parts of the first film is Emily Blunt. I really love
yeah.
uh seeing her in general, but just her like performance, like just like her, she is like hitting way above. Like there is no reason why she needs to act as well as she does for
This
what the
movie.
movie is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that birth scene, like it's kind of like damn, like that must have sucked performing that, and she's really giving it her all, which is awesome
And supposedly
to see.
that was a one take scene. I don't know if you
Oh
read
my
that, but
God.
yeah, that was the first take, and he liked it so much that John Krasinski did that they went with it because he was just like, "Damn,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you did it your all." Yeah, so didn't
Yeah.
need anything else. Yeah, I mean
Yeah, I would.
the acting in both of these movies is fine. I like nothing negative to say about that for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. Well, let's get into A Quiet Place Part Two. So you saw it at home. I saw it in
Hmm.
the theaters. What are your hot takes on A Quiet Place Part Two?
Hot takes. I mean, my first thought, like before I started watching it, I was like, how in the world are they going to expand this idea into another 90 minutes? Because I was like even the first one to me felt kind of like stretched. Like, how are they going to make this another 90-minute movie? And honestly, like I I feel about the same way about the second one. that it was just very passable, and but it was such a repeat of the first one. They didn't really, I mean, not, I don't know, like it's just not very creative, not very interesting where they took it. The story was just very similar, and I mean, we'll get more into this in spoilers or whatever, but like lots of the characters just made really weird decisions or really dumb
Yeah.
decisions that I just didn't understand. I didn't really like some of the characters that I probably should, that I'm supposed to like, so that really hurt the movie, I
Yeah.
think. And just, I don't know, I mean, it's a decent, like I said, it's just like one of those movies that you watch and you just want to watch something like a horror movie with monsters in it, and that's it. You just sit down, you watch it, you pretty much know what you're going to expect,
Hmm.
but there's nothing super special about it, and I'm probably going to
Yeah.
forget about it pretty soon.
Yeah.
That is my overall review, depressing review of these two movies.
Oh man. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I was excited for this because I love when, because John Krasinski he's like a pretty new director. Like I think he did two other films before A Quiet Place, which were like kind of like generic comedies.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people see like A Quiet Place too as his like coming out party, like now he's like a legit filmmaker and he's going to be pushing himself creatively, to tell deeper stories. And I thought like, well, A Quiet Place 2, I mean, A Quiet Place 1 had like a lot of flaws, but I mean, there was like kind of a feeling of like, all right, I see what he's kind of aiming for, that like uh I don't want to, well, I guess it's like that Spielberg type of uh action and drama. Like I think about the the scenes in like Jurassic Park with the Velociraptors. Like I feel like if you were to get into John Krasinski's mind, like what is the most perfect executed stressful scene of tension, it would be that the scene with the Velociraptors with the kids, like
And I had,
hiding.
that's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I had, when I was watching the second movie, there was a moment, I forget exactly when, but characters are hiding from the monster behind, and in, with their backs against some kind of like metallic, I don't even know if it was, probably not a kitchen, but I got very strong Jurassic Park vibes from that scene. And but the problem is, it was one of those moments where a movie is reminding you of a better movie, and then you're like,
Hmm.
oh,
Hmm.
this movie is kind of disappointing compared to that other movie that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and I feel like, yeah, so with the first one, I feel like, well, I can kind of tell that's the vibe that he's aiming for. Like his creative eye is kind of centered on that Spielberg-esque sense of a tent of anxiety or whatever. Like you have a monster and you're hiding, and then it's like trying to be quiet, and then of course there's loud things, and it fits with the theme and the concept of the film. And I was excited for the second one because I was like, well, with that experience, he's gonna push himself even further. And I feel like, I don't know. In the second one, I feel like he does. I can see that he's pushing himself, just because he has a wider like spectrum to play with. But I feel like that almost makes it worse. Like I think I like the first one way more than the second one because it was at least more minimal. It was like more limited.
Yeah,
Where this one, like, I can tell. Like I don't want to get into specifics, but the set pieces feel bigger, but not in the way that I would hope. They don't feel bigger in an emotional or anxiety way. They feel bigger in a production value and budget sense.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like that kind of makes the movie worse. Like it just feels like it's not that it's bloated, but it just feels like, wait, what's the point of this? And I feel like the same thing happened with Jurassic Park, the Jurassic Park films. Like you compare the first Jurassic Park to Jurassic World, and you're like, what happened between? It's like what? And this film, it feels like that. And now, you know, I feel like it's not a spoiler to say there's probably going to be a third one because this film was successful,
Yep.
box office wise or whatever. And I just felt like, oh, now I'm not excited for the third one because like I kind of
No,
see that he's not pushing himself creatively. Well, I mean he is, but uh
he just
just not in my taste.
Yeah, he just plays it both of these movies. It just gives you that feeling of like he was just trying to be very safe about everything. Like, I don't know, like trying to kind of be very pandering. I wrote down the word pandering when I was watching the first one because I'm just like, oh my God, just like there were lots of like just trying to be really relatable to the average viewer. I feel like with the whole
Yeah.
especially just with the whole family theme of both of the movies. I don't know if I'm biased, just this is a personal bias or something, but because I do know that that's obviously that theme is very relatable to a lot of people and draws them in, but it's like I guess I didn't particularly relate to this family, but just that he is just very strong on that, family. Oh, we can do this together, and oh,
Yeah.
working together, and oh, we're going to conquer, our love for our family is going to conquer these monsters, and just kind of boring themes like that, where I'm like, ugh, he was just playing it really safe with like how
Yeah.
the characters were, how sentimental everything was. I don't know. Both of the
Yeah.
movies were very sentimental. And I guess this isn't
Oh, yeah.
spoilers or anything, but like survival movies like this, I feel like are on a spectrum of very sentimental. And then on the other end of the spectrum is just like characters that are very logical, like super logical about what they're doing. And those are really interesting.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, this movie was just like on the super sentimental end of stuff where I'm just like rolling my eyes, and it makes the characters really stupid. But I guess it's supposed to be like it's supposed to make them more relatable to the average person. But but if you're
No,
just
there was some stupid parts.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, which we'll get into, I guess. Um, but yeah. Anyway, that's
yeah.
my general just like this movie. He was playing it really safe with these movies. That's why
Mhm.
they just seem very planned to me, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think it's just like a general, it's like over dramatic. It feels, I stopped, well, I don't really watch TV, but it feels like a TV series type of emotional, like a character, almost like I feel like this happens a lot in TV. It's just like characters are so dependent on other characters, and there's this constant like, I need you to do this
Ooh,
for
yeah.
Jimmy.
Oh,
Jimmy will die.
the second
What?
movie had so much of that in it. Yeah.
And that's like, oh my dude, like, and I think as a whole, this movie is way worse written than the first film. Like the first film, there isn't a lot of depth, but there is also not a lot of content, like speaking and dialogue and character interactions. And then in this film, they like doubled or tripled the interactions and it and the talking, and it just felt way worse because of it. Like everything everyone said was
Silly.
just way over dramatic, and
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I guess we'll have to break it down in the spoilers,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
specifics.
You know what?
But
What it made me think of is when we were talking about like the survival movies and how this one is just overly sentimental and stuff. But on the other end, it's like the really logical characters, and those are the survival movies I like. And the example I just thought of an example is Your Next. Have you ever seen that movie? Came out in
no,
like 2011. Um, and
that's Blumhouse,
it's
right?
is it? I don't even know if it's a Blumhouse one or not. Um, but it's a very what I really appreciated about it. It's one of those home invasion movies, like masked
Oh yeah.
masked people are invading the house that this family is in. So it's kind of similar, it's a family. It's very family centered. It's about this one family and how they would how they would react in a situation like this, life or death situation. But it's just so much more interesting. And also like it's one of those movies that I was watching and I was like, the main character did everything that I would do basically. Like the main character was super logical. Like you couldn't really fault the main character for anything that she was doing. And also it made sense that she was acting this way because of her background. I think she was like in the military as a medic or something.
Mhm.
But it's like, oh, that's so much more entertaining survival movie because you can't fault the characters for doing dumb things. Like you can the bad things, the horror of the movie is that like even though they're doing everything right, bad things still happen, just because of chance, because of bad luck or whatever. Like I feel like those are the best horror movies where it's not because the characters are doing, it's not like because they're doing stupid things or being careless. It's just because because of chance, just because of something completely out of their control. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and then I guess one thing that, like compared to the first film, the first film had those like set pieces, like the nail
The nail,
and then
yeah.
the birth scene.
Yeah.
And like, well, I guess this is actually for spoilers because, well, the point is there is no big scene in this film. It's
Yeah.
like there's like no set piece, and I thought that was kind of weird considering he had such a big, well, too big, and then it's like, though, yeah, I guess that's for
Well, and
spoilers.
if there is a set piece, like it seems like it's repeated from the first movie. Like, and watching the second
Yeah,
movie, I was like, oh, they're in a basement again, and it's flooding, and they're trapped in the basement, and it's like, oh my god,
yeah.
like, wow, where have I seen this before? And it's ugh. But yeah, we'll get more into that in spoiler territory.
All right, so let's see. Was there anything? I guess what else could we talk about
What
in the
would you
review?
what would you rate the second one?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess what would I think I said I would rate the first one a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably give this a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Or yeah, 5 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could get into decimals, what's weird is that I kind of like the second one a little bit better for some reason that I
Mm,
can't really explain. I like the second one
really?
just a tiny bit slightly better. And I don't know
Hmm.
why. Maybe we'll figure out why while we're talking about it. But so if I got
Yeah.
into decimals, I would give the first movie a 5, and then I might give this movie a 5.5. Somewhere between there, but it's not very much better. They're very, very similar. But for some reason, I like the second movie slightly better.
Interesting. Well, maybe on part three you'll go to a
A
six out of
6,
ten.
maybe well, yeah, we'll see. But
All right, man. Was there anything else you want to say in the review portion before we start spoiling this
nah,
thing?
I think we should just jump into the deets.
All right. Well, I got one last thing.
What do
Would
you
you
got?
recommend this to people who enjoyed the first one?
Oh,
Like, do you
that's a good
think if
question.
someone actually liked the first one, do you think they would like the second one?
Yes.
But I think,
I
yeah,
I feel like if because they're so similar, it's like, yeah,
yeah.
like if you really really liked the first one for whatever reason, then you will probably really enjoy this movie. So, yeah, definitely. I would recommend
All
it.
right. Well, thanks for listening to our review. We're about to get into the spoiler section of this Quiet Place Part 2. So, if you haven't seen this film and you are planning to watch it and don't want to be spoiled, you can press pause right now while I ramble. And yeah, we're gonna start spoiling it now. So, first thing, I want to start with the beginning of the film. Well,
Okay.
the ending of part one,
All right.
because I thought this like me as an aspiring filmmaker. So like every time I watch a film, when I don't like something, I immediately go into like, wait, what would I do? Why did he do that? Like as a creator, like I'm trying to break down what was the idea of writing it this way or composing the film in this way.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the end of the first film, that big scene with the shotgun and
Yep.
Emily Blunt and and then shows the screens with all the monsters running towards them, right? Because she just shot
Yeah.
the shotgun blast, right? And then the choice, and this was a choice, and this is why I don't understand this. And normally I don't like I don't mind uh, plot holes or whatever. Like I usually don't give a fuck about them. It's like it really pissed me off that this film. I mean, besides the intro part, which we'll get to, like it immediately starts like minutes after the end of the first film, and then we never see the like six or 4 to 6 monsters on the TV screen that were obviously running towards the house,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
just don't appear, and then they walk out of the house, and then they're just,
It
and I was just
is
like, wait, where are the monsters that were supposedly running towards the house?
because that was my guess of how they were going to start the second movie. I thought they were just going to start it off with a bang, and yeah,
Yeah,
and show that, just start it. Why not? Like, why not just start it off with that? That'll get people hooked. I mean, not that if you've seen, you kind of have to see the first movie, I guess, to fully appreciate this movie, I guess. But I mean, if someone hadn't seen the first movie, then it would make sense to just start it off with a that scene. But no, they did a flashback with stuff that honestly, that's I mean that first of all, I feel like this could have been just one movie. I mean, they could have compressed all of this into one movie. And I'm always,
yeah,
maybe this is a thing with me, but I always want them to just unify things and just make them one really good movie instead of spreading it out. And I feel like they could have easily cut down like pretty much everything in these two movies into like one 2.5 hour long movie or something, and it would have been
Yeah.
probably better than the two movies separately. But I mean, I liked that they went back and showed before, a little bit of before the disaster, because I just thought that was like really missing from the first movie, and I really don't understand why they didn't put any of that in the first movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
I
did you think?
imagine I can see why they didn't do that just on out of budget reasons. Like I
Oh,
imagine
okay.
he had a limited budget. But the thing that also breaks my brain is you do the intro sequence of part two, right? With the city and like you see the destruction. And then I'm like, all right, this is fucking awesome. Like I want to see some like fucking get out of town and like how they ended up where they ended up, like
Yeah,
and it would have just needed like 10 more minutes of that intro. But instead, it just ends like what it ends right after like that cop gets killed or something and the
yeah,
kid's like covering his ears,
yep,
but it never shows John Krasinski and the daughter. Like it does like I feel like there's a huge blank spot
yeah,
that
yeah.
it almost like pisses me off because I'm like, wait, now it doesn't make sense how they made it out.
How'd they escape? Yeah,
And then yeah, and then with the knowledge of the end of the first film, there's all these monsters running to the house, and then we go to the second film, we don't see any of those monsters. Now I'm thinking in the third film, it's gonna start where the this second one started with the whole city escape, and it's just
oh,
gonna cut immediately to them in a car or running in a city, but there's no monsters around. So they're gonna do the same fucking thing, and it's gonna fucking give me a headache.
yeah. Hopefully they don't do that. Yeah, I just I really liked that the whole setup, like of the the baseball game and stuff. Like I was like, this is cool. Like this is what I wanted to see in the first movie that
Yeah.
they didn't show me. Was just
Yep.
what happened, how did this exactly start. I liked the whole feeling of it, like the guy watching the TV and like, oh yeah, something's happening, but it's like really,
Yeah.
it's something distant, you really care about it, and then all of a sudden it becomes real. The only thing I didn't like nitpick is that, do you really think that, like, I guess they're in upstate New York, but I was thinking at first that they were in like the Midwest or the South or something in some small town. And I was like, you
Mhm.
really think they would stop their baseball game just because there's like a meteorite in the distance? Like
Oh hell no.
no,
Oh hell no.
I was like, there's no way they would just keep like, why are they stopping the game? Like they would just keep going. It's just a meteorite. I don't know. So I
Dude,
thought that was a little weird.
in fucking Alabama, like literally, there's a football game going on while there's a tornado warning.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
in the same exact, and you see a fucking funnel cloud,
Sure.
and it's just not like
Or
no one
COVID,
gives a
like just
fuck.
seeing people's responses to COVID. They're not gonna stop a sports game just because a meteorite is falling. Like I don't know, that was really silly to me, but just a little nitpick,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, my little nitpick with that same scene, the how he is like walking into the store smiling, grabs an apple, tosses it, catches it, takes a bite, like walking in, walks to the store owner, what's up, Jimmy? It's
Put
like,
it
oh,
on my
what's going on
tab.
TV? I don't know, rocket launch, well, I gotta go. Doesn't pay for any of his
No,
shit.
he has it. He says, "Put it on my tab" or something like that. Something really corny. But that's just to
Oh,
establish, oh yeah, it's a small town, and these people know everybody. They're kind of old fashioned, and
dude, I claim bullshit. Like
I don't
I
think
mean, I
anyone
feel
does
like
that. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think any small town in America has that sense of community.
Oh
Like,
no, no,
I don't
no.
know. I'm pretty dire
Oh,
of the view of the country, but I
I
don't think
lived.
anyone is.
I lived in a small town in Alabama for a few years, and it's like, yeah, no, unless you're going to church, they should have had a church scene. It should have been a like a church picnic or something. That would have been the only realistic, like everyone's together and like a
Oh
feeling
my
of
God.
togetherness. But yeah, besides that, you're not gonna be walking into a store and just walking out with merchandise. You don't know each
Oh,
other that well.
and then him like smiling at people, even the dog saying hey to him,
Hmm.
fucking like giving the little gun hands to like Jimmy Bob in the
Uh-huh.
stand. It's like, oh, what's up, Fred? Yeah, my son's playing baseball. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That
Very.
just triggered me. It was just like a commercial, like a
Uh-huh.
commercial for some insurance or something.
It was a little much. It was a little much. And then, I guess continuing in that scene, I don't know if you were bothered by this, but okay, so the monsters show up, and then immediately, like, John and I think the daughter run into a store, and everyone's cowering on the floor, and
Hmm.
they all somehow immediately know to be quiet, even though, like, I feel like in real life, if this were happening,
Hmm.
they would want to hide, you know, probably and cower like in a store. But I don't know if you've ever seen videos of like let's say a shooting or something, like a mass shooting or something. People are not quiet. Like people are freaking out and like talking very loudly to each other and yelling and
Hmm.
screaming and, you know, trying to record what's happening on their phone and calling people.
Hmm.
And it's just like that was really weird that all of a sudden the characters just magically know to be quiet and like huddle down quietly in the store when for sure that would not happen in real life. In real
Yeah.
life, people would be screaming, even if they thought to run away and hide in a store, they would be like screaming and yelling at each other, and it would be pandemonium. So I was like, all right, that's a little weird. But
Yeah. It does, like, all the sequences with the monsters feel incredibly staged. And
yeah.
I think that's just, I mean, I'm not saying I would do better, but it just feels like an inexperience of how to deal with, like, as a director, like how do you get that many people in a shot to react realistically? And I just imagine that's incredibly difficult to kind of paint a realistic picture and then the framing of it. And then I feel like he also has, how we talked about in the review, like it's over dramatic. So
Hmm.
it's like I imagine in his brain, like what is the focus of the scene? I have to establish that me, John Krasinski, is the father of this daughter, has to save this daughter. I'm a real man's
Yeah.
man,
Oh my god.
and and I'll do anything for my family. So
Did
like that's
you?
kind of the
Yeah.
like that's the center of what I imagine his creative mind is at, and that's why I feel like it just feels like you just immediately know, like as soon as you get into that scene, you just immediately know everyone's gonna die besides them, and they're gonna escape safely. Like even if you were to not know that they're gonna continue on in the film, like if you were to just remove that scene, like I feel like any viewer would be like, oh yeah, they're both gonna survive and they're gonna be okay and get out of this. I think that's like where experience and like true next level how to create excitement in a film, something like that Spielberg's really good at back in the day, is that sometimes you started feeling like, wait, are these characters actually gonna die? Like, is this Velociraptor gonna rip their faces off? And
Yeah.
like you as a viewer, you kind of feel that because I've and it's like the minutia of things. It's like how you frame it, it's how you set up the shots, it's how you direct the performers, and it's like that almost subconsciously makes the viewer doubt that they're okay. And I feel like in every scene of where stakes were high, I immediately felt like he had already, just in the way he framed it and how he directed everyone and the music and the composition and the lighting and everything, like everything felt like, oh, they're gonna make it out. And it's because like I guess this is like bigger picture, but this happens in like every set piece. He immediately establishes what each character is going to use to escape.
Mm.
And I think that's like it feels that's where I say like I feel like you're like over explaining things. And a director that does this is like in my opinion, Jordan Peele with
Oh.
Get Out and
Yeah.
Us. I feel like the reason I really dislike his movies, just on a tension level, is that he is leaving too many breadcrumbs of how to escape. And I feel like a lot of people do that to be smart, so they're minimizing plot holes. Like, how
Hmm.
did he know to grab that axe? Well, then, therefore, I need to show the axe 3 scenes previous to this, or I need to have a close up on the axe, and then we go into the action or whatever. And I don't know. I just feel like this movie did that consistently, and
Like,
just me as a viewer, I never felt like anyone was in danger.
do you remember from the first movie? Speaking of like putting in clues that are not necessarily like, do you remember in the first movie, like basically in the first couple minutes, I think the first scene that they're in that store, there's like a newspaper, you know, fluttering in the wind that you see for like 10 seconds, and the front of the in huge bold, you know, letters, the headline is just it just says it's sound exclamation point. Like it's just like it's telling you what the gimmick is. And I thought that was so
Yeah.
hilarious. Like I was like, "Oh, it's sound." as if people wouldn't figure that out. Like, I don't know, it was really silly,
Yeah.
a little
And
much.
that bothers me because it's like I normally don't care about plot holes and like logic breaking, but like in the first film, it was okay, like whatever, fair game. But now in the second one, like it just bothers me because it's like there's so like if you go back to the first one, there's so many newspapers. Like were
That is
newspapers
true.
going on for like an entire month? Because there was like 20 different headlines from like
Yeah,
20 different publications.
yeah.
It's like how was the New York Times going all the way to
Oh
California
my God. Okay,
being published?
can I can I take this opportunity to bring up probably the biggest thing that bothered me about these movies and really disconnected me from the characters, and it has to do with that, like, okay, like this disaster is happening. All right, so I mean the big tension of the first movie is that she's pregnant, right? And
Yeah.
the first movie, when, and actually in this second movie, it establishes that she gives birth on day 474 or something like that. It's around that. I think that's the day they leave the farm, is day 474. She gives
Hmm.
birth. That means
Yes.
that she conceived that baby 200 204 day. I did the math. I subtract. I was like, all right, 9 months. About day 200 of this whole disaster, this horrifying disaster where we can assume most of the population is dying and stuff.
Hmm.
They somehow had the motivation and time to have unprotected sex like day 200 into this disaster, not knowing what
Yeah.
the future holds. Not, I'm sorry, but that's super disconnected me. Maybe this is just a weird thing, but I was like, why would they be doing that in the midst of this, knowing that they have
Yeah.
to be
I mean,
silent? Why are they having, like, I understand it could have been an accident, but like, really? Like, are these characters this stupid? Like in this,
oh no. I
are these
mean,
characters supposed to be this stupid and this like dumb that they're gonna do that like during this, that this baby is going to endanger all of them? They have no,
yeah.
oh, huge pet peeve about the first movie is all the times the baby didn't cry, when it's like, okay, this,
Yeah.
any baby would be just screaming their head off, all of them would be dead immediately. They didn't seem to have much of a plan for this, besides that they had a box that they were going to put the baby in and give it
Yeah.
oxygen, I guess, and that's supposed to calm the baby down. But it's just like, oh my
Mhm.
god, like, seriously. And you know what's so frustrating about this is, like, they could have fixed this easily by just changing the number on the screen that they show, day whatever it showed in the first movie, day 300
Mhm.
something. They could have
Oh,
just,
so she was pregnant
they could have made it so
before.
that she was pregnant before, and that would have made me
Yeah.
way more sympathetic to the character, because it's like, whoa, like. And they could have made it even more interesting if, first, let's say they established that she didn't want the baby. How much more
Mhm.
tension would that have added to it, that
Yeah.
she's pregnant during this disaster, and it wasn't on purpose, it was a complete accident
Yeah.
before the disaster. She didn't want the baby, and now she's having to deal
Yep.
with this like life altering thing during this life altering disaster. And that would have created so much more drama and tension. But instead, we're led to believe, because they don't tell us anything else, that they purposefully had this baby, I guess, in response to their youngest child getting killed. And they did this on purpose,
Oh.
like like they just
Mm.
had to replace their third child. And it's like, oh my god, like, really? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That just totally, that totally disconnected me from the characters, like, almost off the
Yeah.
bat in the first movie, because I'm like, that is such a dumb thing to do during
All
this
right. So
particular disaster. Sorry, I'll stop my rant.
no, no, you're good. I agree. Like as a writer, because I didn't think about what you just brought up. It's like if you made her pregnant before the event just by switching the numbers around.
Yeah,
Like as a writer, that because like as someone who's trying to write stories and you're trying to like extract the most tension out of any scenario, like that's a gold mine of just having
sure.
someone pregnant because of you. And then like you could add so many layers to that. It's like, oh, well, I told you I didn't want to have a baby. Or like
Yeah,
they were about to separate from each other,
Yeah.
or what, you know, like it's infinite amounts of drama that they just like
And they picked
threw away.
the worst possibility, yeah, the worst option out
Yeah.
of all those options. I don't know.
But, this is a big but. I mean, it's Emily Blunt though. So let's take the scenario of
What?
me, certified horny dude.
Oh boy.
If I was if I was in this situation, and let's just say Florence Pugh was with me, and she was like my wife in this scenario,
Right,
so
right.
like she also likes me,
Uh-huh.
and she's willing, and we're both just like, it's like, yeah, dude, like, I mean, we're gonna die, everyone's gonna die, everyone's dead, dude. She would be pregnant multiple times.
But you know that is cementing your death as well. It is that are you going to be able to
It would be
hold
worth it.
you really think so?
Those 27 seconds would be
That
worth
would
it.
yeah, that would just you just wouldn't have the self-control. You just forgot to grab the condoms
Yeah,
when you ran away from home. I
absolutely
I
not.
just I just don't know. I just can't buy
Dude, and
it.
imagine the intense. Yeah, I don't need to go into this deeper, but you know, having to be quiet, and it's like, oh, this is a life or death scenario. You know, that would make
That too, I'm
that
like,
would
yeah, would that
that would be
like
the best orgasm ever.
no. I was like thinking the opposite for these characters. I'm just thinking, okay, back to the characters. I'm out of your fantasy. Back to
All right.
these characters. I'm like, all right, they're already, they've been in they're married, they have 3 kids. Like, when you're at that point in your marriage, it's like the romance has died a bit. Like, it's more probably if you want to have another kid, it's kind of a planned thing. So it's like, are they really gonna be like in this situation? They're gonna be so horny like that they are gonna want to have sex like at this point. I don't know. I'm sorry. I was just like totally thrown off by that. Like these characters are that, and the only thing the film gave us that could have possibly explained this is that she was so sad, like they were just so grief stricken that child was snatched and killed that they just had to
Yeah.
replace him. They just had to
But see,
replace him with another baby. And it's just like, what?
yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. I can't relate to that. So I don't know.
Yeah, in reality zone, outside of the horniness, you're right. I don't like in a realistic thing, even with Florence Pugh,
Hmm.
yeah, there'd be pulling out.
You have to imagine that you've already had 3 children with Florence Pugh,
Yeah.
and you've been
Oh
together.
man,
You've been together for at least. I mean, how old is the oldest child in this movie? How old is the girl character?
she's probably like 14,
Yeah, you've
15.
been together for 14 or 15 years.
Oh man,
The spark has
15 great years.
the spark has died. I'm sorry, but the spark has died.
Oh no, they wouldn't. She's gonna be Black Widow. There's like that's a whole nother spark. Every film she's in, new spark.
She's just creating more fantasies for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 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 but you're right. And then what sucks is like they don't even set up the breadcrumbs for said grief. Like them having a baby because grief is nowhere in either of the films.
Well,
So
there's a scene in the first movie where she goes into like a nursery type room or something in the farm, and she's kind of they have a
yeah,
moment. I think they have a very brief scene where it seems like she's kind of grieving a bit. And
yeah, I don't.
and the second scene, she goes to the cross and she's grieving,
Yeah,
it's still clear that she's grieving, but
but I don't see any connective tissue of grieving equals the next child. Like we have another
honestly,
child.
yeah, I feel like it's usually the opposite. I don't know. Like the other only movie that I've watched recently that's like is Come and See, like the Russian or maybe Ukrainian produced movie about World War II, and it's just a horrifying like movie through this like teenage boy's perspective of World War II, like in Russia or I think Ukraine, I guess the Soviet Union, and it's just like when there's a situation like that, you're not in the mood. Like no one when you're in a horrifying situation where most of the population is being exterminated and you're constantly in fear, you're not in the mood.
Yeah,
You're not in the mood to reproduce. I'm sorry, but that's not going to be happening until
yeah,
things have calmed down. So I don't know. We can move on
that,
from that
yeah.
rant, but
But that is interesting. I would like to see the statistics of that though. like during war, does the population
No, it's
procreate
afterwards.
less?
It's
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's when
But
things
I'm
calm
curious to see
down.
that. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like the whole baby boom and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just
Interesting.
I'm
All
just
right.
not buying it.
Well,
We'll move on though. But oh, well, can I well, I guess sort of connected to this. And I'm sorry for jumping around. I don't know if you want to go in order perfectly or if you're fine with
I
jumping
don't know,
around,
dude.
but
Whatever is most memorable.
okay, so the next most memorable thing that I'm thinking having to do with what disconnected me from the characters and really hurt this movie was so they this is after they connect with the new male character that they connect with. Emmett is his character name. And Emily Blunt's character guilts him into helping them by just like opening the box with the baby in it and just
Uh,
showing him the baby, and it's just like, oh my god, really? Like, and then that makes me think, what like was is part of like in the back of her mind, it was like having a baby would be useful in this scenario because people
oh
would be
yeah.
more sympathetic to her. That it just made me think that, and I'm just like, ugh, that makes this character even more unlikable because
Yeah.
I'm like, is she just using her baby as like a bargaining chip, like a pawn for people to take care of her now? Like, I don't know. I was very, very, very turned off by that.
Oh man.
And then
That's yeah.
and then it's like, she's guilting him even after even after he lets them stay. She guilts him some more. She immediately, when the girl runs away off on her solo mission, like she's pressuring him to go find her. I'm like, he lost his wife and his two sons. Like, he's had his own family and they've been killed. He's probably horribly grief stricken and still connected to that
PTSD.
family. Yeah, and like you're all of a sudden you show up out of nowhere, and now this guy's got to take care of your family, and he's got to like run off and risk his life for this girl that he doesn't really even know that well. And it's like, oh my god, like, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I really really disliked like just how they made her character, because I'm like, you go look for your daughter. Like, you can go look for her. Like, your son can take care of the baby. It's established
Oh
later.
man.
So it's like, what
That
what does this guy have to do with anything? He's nice enough to
that
let you
that is
stay.
that is hilarious though. Like just remembering back that scene, and she's like, "Bro, you gonna kill this baby, bro?"
Yeah, like she just opens it like that's her like trump card, just like,
Like, dude,
really.
seriously, look in this box.
Mm-hmm.
You're going out there.
You
Just
gonna
go.
say no to that baby? And to honestly, to me, like, if I were him, that would make me even less likely to want just them
Oh
to
yeah,
stay
dude,
with me, because like that's
I'd be so
horrifying.
pissed.
That's
It's like I
horrifying.
thought you had soda in that
I
box.
thought you had food, supplies, something special, but no. It's just
But
a.
on a serious note, this actually brings up something I thought about.
Mhm.
The first film, and and I don't know, maybe this is applying something that's not there, but this is just what I felt. It feel like from the first film, it felt like a very male-centric vision,
Yeah.
and like I don't know, because I love to write female characters. So again, like as a writer, I'm like thinking about this, like I hope I don't write characters and stories like this because it kind of irritates me. But it's like in the first film, it feels like I am a man, I have to protect my family. And it
Yeah.
feels like she is filling this like very old classic stereotype woman
Mm-hmm.
role. Like she's pregnant and she has, like it just feels weird that she's always staying back and then doing like stereotypical women family stuff,
Yeah, and
which
I.
makes no sense with Emily Blunt because she is like a complete badass. Like in real life and in most of her roles, she is like
Mm-hmm.
a fucking goddess.
Right. Right.
Like watch Edge of Tomorrow
Yeah.
and she is just like fucking insane. And then just to see her in this like very I don't know, like I don't know if it's me or
No.
if this is how it feels, but it feels like she is being put down. And in the
Yeah.
first film, I was like, all right, it's maybe it's just me. And then John Krasinski dies, and then I was like, awesome. The second film, she will take
Yep.
the stereotypical fatherhood and motherhood figure, and I think well that would be brilliant because it would metaphorically represent a lot of single mothers in the world. Like I have to save my kids and protect them and do all these things, and it's overwhelming, and just the tension of that and the metaphor of that and everything. Like I felt like that's a gold mine. There's so many layers you could dig into it. And then this movie starts, and then immediately, like you're saying, she meets another male character.
Yep.
And then, like that scene exactly, it feels like, dude, she can handle herself. She's killed these things. She stepped on a fucking nail, continued walking. She gave birth quietly. Like she went through more pain than any man in both of the films combined, multiplied by 27. And then she's still staying back and not, like, I don't know. She doesn't feel like she is this. I don't know. Like it doesn't feel like she's moving the narrative forward.
Yeah.
And I
And
don't know. Did
I,
you feel that in the second one? Like it felt
yeah.
especially weird in the second one with Cillian Murphy, or I forgot his name.
Yeah, that's
Whatever.
his name.
The oh yeah, Cillian Murphy's character. Like it felt like he was tacked on to replace John Krasinski. When I'm like, why does there have to be another
Yep.
man in this?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I thought, like, in the first movie, I thought that they were setting it up to be subversive, in that way that, I mean, they do it in so many movies now. Like it's just a very predictable thing to do, like in
Yeah.
Hollywood movies. Like it's. I thought it was going to be that yeah, John Krasinski dies, but it doesn't matter. Like it's gonna show like, okay, they can fend for themselves. It's not like they needed this guy to do everything. But yeah, from the very beginning of the movie, the first movie, like the whole scene that I thought was really weird, just like him, like, taking the son, on the fishing to go show him how to catch fish,
Yes.
and like leaving the girl. Oh no, you have to you have to stay behind and help your daughter. It's like, I was like, this is
And
weird. Like,
why?
are we
The
supposed to?
daughter is a badass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she's even saying that. And so I thought, okay, it's setting this up so that later it's gonna show like, okay, it's gonna let the female characters, you know, take over,
Agency.
like, and
That's the
show, and
word. They
yeah,
have agency.
and show that they don't need this guy like bossing them, giving them these roles. But no, both of the movies, it's like very traditional. It's like very like an old fashioned movie, almost like something you would see in the, like from like a 60s western movie or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. Like,
It is exactly like, yeah,
and I don't know if
yeah.
that's just like John Krasinski's personal uh thing or something. I don't know, because he did write, both the movies and everything, and he's married to Emily Blunt, and they have a family, and so I'm just like, I don't know, maybe that's just him. But yeah, thought it was very strange, especially for like a big Hollywood, like how so many movies nowadays are almost ruined for the opposite reason, because they're way too politically correct and in a
Yeah.
obvious way. And and it's like, but this movie went in the opposite direction and was cringy for the opposite reason. It's very
Yeah,
weird.
like that. Yeah, that whole scene of where like you need to find my daughter. I'm just like,
Yeah.
like it's like I love Cillian Murphy as an actor, but I'm like, dude, I want to see you go out there.
Like he
I
didn't
thought this
argue,
movie.
or yeah. I for sure thought he would be more resistant, but then no, he goes out and he does it. And I'm like, okay, this character, would he really? I don't know. I guess he was just
Yeah.
supposed to. He was just set up as almost like too nice of a guy, that he would just he was just too nice. He was too compassionate. He had to go help them. But yeah,
But yeah, dude, that's it pisses me off. Like even yeah, like even if you were not to look at it from the politically correct way, just as a narrative thing, this is the weakest version of all alternatives. And God, yeah, that stresses me out.
yeah. And then, okay, can we back up a little bit and say,
Yeah.
why did they leave the farm? Did you understand that? Like, why at the very beginning of the second movie,
Hmm.
it picks up, they're walking around. Like you said, the monsters have magically disappeared that were approaching the farm. And so they're just walking around, and the barn is on fire. And I'm like, okay, they could just put out the fire, and they should probably
Yeah.
stay here. They are
Hmm.
familiar with this area. They have
They
supplies
have
there.
access to crops
They have
and
access to
water,
crops and corn and
food.
water. Yep. They're familiar. They've got their paths. Why the heck would they leave this very safe place, except for because the movie needs it, just to, because it's a sequel and we have to expand on the first movie and we have to have new settings and blah blah blah. But it's like, that's the only reason I could think of, like, because the plot needed it.
Yeah.
But it didn't really make sense. Like, why would they leave? Like, that's the safest place for them to be. And I was even thinking, like, from if I were in that situation, I would think, okay, the monsters have already come here, like the ones that were in this area have come here and they're dead. So probably this place is even safer now because I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe these monsters can scent danger. Maybe when they see another
Hmm.
dead monster, they know, oh, this place is like dangerous. Let's not go here. Like
Yeah.
that's what I would think. And so yeah, I didn't make any sense that they would leave and risk that just wander towards another campfire that they saw in the distance. But
Yeah. I
very
mean,
weird.
honestly, it feels, I mean, back to the previous point, it's like, I just imagine from Krasinski's creative mind, it's like, well, she can't take care of them, so she needs
Yeah,
to go out and find someone to help.
gotta find a man. Gotta find a. Yeah, it
I
is.
mean,
I can't think of another
that,
reason really.
yeah, like that must have been the, and then this is, leaving that behind. This is what I hate about film, film series like sequels, and this is why I really dislike watching television, is that it's like when you create one piece of a work, right? You created A Quiet Place one, and then that's out there, and then subconsciously you as a writer, creator, director, whatever, you're being influenced by the responses and everything. Like you make a second part, and it's like it's not really a second part to the first part. It's a second part to what you thought and you experience after the first part. So
Yeah,
it's like this weird, like it doesn't feel authentic to me. It feels like almost like a, I don't know, it just feels fake, and it always feels like horrible to me. And this film kind of feels like that, where it's like like this choice and all the choices he made, it was like, well, I need to do this bigger and I need to do this way, and now she needs to go out and we should introduce more characters, and
yeah,
then ooh, we need to set up all these things, where I think if you were a creator and you were to sit down and be like, all right, I'm gonna do a 3-part film trilogy with this story and these characters, I don't think anyone would actually write it this way. Well, people would, but I think the best way would not to be expanding. I think honestly, what I love of like good trilogies or whatever, or film series or part one, part two, part threes, or fours or whatever, is they, in my opinion, what is a good one is when they funnel down. You're cutting ends off as you progress, and you're ending with the final part is this extremely minimal thing. At least
mm,
that's what I would aspire to do if I was making a trilogy or a 2-part film. Like the first one is the big expansive thing, and then the second one is the remaining threads, almost because like they should all funnel down to a point.
yeah.
Like what's the point of the entire narrative? And I feel like this film is the exact opposite. It's like trying to open, but it's opening in all the ways that don't matter. Like Cillian Murphy's character, like he doesn't really matter to the theme or
Mm-hmm.
anything of this film.
Yeah, honestly, if you think about like the whole second movie, like what does he exactly contribute to it? Besides, the only thing I can think of is that he tells the girl, oh, you remind me of your dad, and he gives her some self-esteem and
Yeah.
influences her character. That's the only thing I can think of. He doesn't really influence any other characters. I guess he helps her at the very end, um, do the thing that she was trying to do, but it probably would have been more exciting and more interesting if she'd gone off and done it by herself. Once again, it's like it makes you think like, wait, were they just when John Krasinski was writing this, like was he just thinking like, oh well, she couldn't do this on her own. She needs a man to help her. Like it's
Oh
like
my
it
God.
almost it's like it tempts you to think that way because it's like
Yeah,
why does he need to be there exactly? Because she probably could have done this on her own. I don't know.
yeah, this just is making my brain go wild with like the alternative. Like I just imagine like, oh man, and this is what I like about watching like movies that I don't really love that aren't perfect, is I start imagining it's like, well, what would I do? And then it's like what I imagine is way better than the film.
Yeah,
So I'm immediately imagining a scenario where it's just Emily Blunt. There is no Cillian Murphy. Let's say the house is completely on fire. Everything is flooded. We need to leave. Monsters are coming.
yeah,
And then it's just like an escape scene, right? And then they make it out. And then the daughter is like, dad was a piece of shit and he blamed me for whatever. And then the mom is like, shut up. Or, they have whatever family argument, right?
yeah.
And
They
then she
have.
actually leaves. And then she goes out and she's like, well, I'm going to save everyone because you're too much of of a coward to do anything, just like dad. You know, like you can
uh,
wrap all this up and this would all be way more neater in execution. And then she leaves, and then you're left with the mother thinking, like, oh shit, I'm a terrible mother. Now I have a baby because I was horny. And now this son that I have is extremely terrified and screams at everything. We're fucked. And my daughter is going to an island. I don't know where. I need to find her. I need to deal with the fact that I'm a horrible mother and I'm too horny all the time. And now I suddenly want to have another child. And
uh,
it's like I don't know. I think that would be like that seems so fucking awesome. Like having like that imagined scenario. And then yeah, I don't know. I just imagined that and I wanted to say that out loud.
yeah, no, there are tons of like alternatives that or just like, um, make it like a fortress movie, like make it that kind of survival movie. I don't know if that would be too boring for
Oh
people,
yeah.
but I mean, it's only 90 minutes, so it's not even a long movie. So like, just make it like, okay, like now we don't have dad, like whatever, we know the dangers now, but we also have our new tool of like the ear, the ear thing that makes the noise. So they have a little bit
Yeah.
more protection, but like we need to like, I would love to I would have liked to just see them just fortify, just like fortify that place, and like make see
Yeah.
all the improvements they would make to the place, and like, and then you could even introduce new characters, because you could have had someone wander up to them, and like
Oh.
have someone wander to their place that they just fortified, and they're now that the dad is dead, they're even more, I don't know, they're more paranoid, they're more cautious, overly
Hmm.
cautious, and so
Hmm.
the whatever character comes, and there's drama from that, instead of them going somewhere else, which doesn't make much sense why they would want to do that. Especially now that they've, I don't know, they just saw how dangerous these things are and how this is, killed the dad, and yeah, it just doesn't make sense why they would leave. So like, just reverse it and have someone come to them.
Yeah. Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, see, we just need to sit down and write a loud place.
Please. Oh yeah. I mean,
And
it's really easy to in hindsight to like make an easier movie or a better movie, but it's like, I don't know. There were
yeah.
just too many
It,
things.
yeah. But see, I only find that true with movies that have this many flaws. Like I think about Drive. I cannot imagine adding or changing a single scene in that film.
Yeah.
Or I imagine First Reformed
Or
or
like,
Parasite.
yeah.
Like it seems so structurally perfect that me tinkering with it would make it not what it is, and therefore it would be worse.
Are there other horror movies that I know you say you don't really like horror movies that much, but like, just because I'm trying to figure out another one that I can compare to this besides Your Next,
I
which I already mentioned, but
Yeah,
like another horror
I haven't
movie that
seen
just
it.
does it better. Like does
I really love It Follows, but the ending of that film I would change or replace, but the rest of it I really, really love.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? It
Yeah.
Follows?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really like it. Yeah.
See, and like It Follows had more quiet scenes. Like, and that's what I wish both of these films had, where it just had those moments of you're just with the characters. Like nothing's happening. There's no backstory. You're just spending time with them. And I feel like you're like I don't know why he needs these films to be like exactly 90 minutes or constant something happening, but I feel like this kind of film would be perfect for those moments. And it would do the drama that he's so desperately trying to get by being over dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that by just slowing down, you know?
Yeah. And then, I mean, the other movie that came to my mind was Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead. I don't know if you've seen
Oh
that,
yeah.
but yeah, just that's like one of the best examples of like a fortify movie, like survival movie, where
Mm,
they have a place, they got a mall, and you've got your characters, like I think there's 4 or 5 characters, and they have to survive in this mall, and there are hordes of zombies. I think when they first arrive in the mall, they got to clear out the mall, and then they got to fortify and protect the mall. And it's just like a step by step, just showing what they got to do, and it's very logical. It just, they could have gone in that direction with this movie, I guess, but I don't know.
mm,
I guess because they were trying to be on the sentimental side of things, that wouldn't,
yeah.
I don't know, they went all in on that, but
See,
just,
I haven't seen the original Dawn of the Dead, but I saw the Snyder cut.
oh, I haven't seen the Snyder one, but I've seen the original.
Ah. Yeah, I like the Snyder one. I don't know how it compares, but I thought it was a decent zombie film.
Huh. I'll have to
So I
see
need
it.
to watch the original.
I have to do a
See,
comparison.
George Romero would be one of those directors for a director series, I feel like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, so one other thing I wanted to bring up. Shit, I just forgot.
Uh,
Oh, so I noticed in this film versus the first film, I don't know if you noticed this, but besides the whole like Spielberg, trying imitation thing, I feel like he really likes Christopher Nolan because there was a lot of layering of action sequences. Like
oh yeah.
the mother character going to get the medicine was happening at the same time for some non-important reason. The kid is looking at Cillian Murphy's private shit, finding his dead
Yeah.
wife strapped to a table, which makes no sense. And
Why?
then
Yeah, why? Ugh, that sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah, that why the heck did that kid leave the bunker, leave and go up and just start randomly exploring when he knows he's all
yeah,
alone? He's all alone. It's just him and the
and
baby. Why the fuck
it
would he
makes
do
no
that?
sense, and it makes no sense with his character because his character is so
Yeah.
terrified of
Yes.
everything. So even there, I was like, he wouldn't do this. Like
Yes.
he would not do this. He would have a heart attack.
Very random. And then are we supposed to feel like I thought it was building up to maybe this character, the Cillian Murphy character, maybe he's something more sinister about him. Maybe there's
Hmm.
some secret that he has. But no, it's just he saved his dead wife, I guess. And
Yeah.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Like it doesn't have any after that happened, it doesn't affect anything that we know that.
Yeah.
Like the only reason for that was for the kid to scream so that the monsters could come so that we could have this
Yeah.
three-way, cutting back and forth between these three scenes tension, which was
Yeah.
fine.
See,
I liked that scene. Like I did like the when they were on the docks and then you had the mom was separate and then you had the kid and they were all having I liked that cutting back and forth. Like that was kind of effective
yeah.
at first, but then they did it
Hmm.
again, I think later near the end, and I was just like, oh god, like you start to because it's not as new and you
You
start to
see,
realize like this
yeah.
is really like kind of corny because it's like oh something's about to happen and then it cuts to the next one and it's like oh something's about to happen and then it cuts to the
Yeah.
next one and then it just gets repetitive and it's like yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't work when you know when it's going to cut. You're like, oh, there's a big monster coming, just killed 20 people, and like as soon as you run into a house and you shut the door, and then it cuts to the other scene. So like you already know, as soon as they're about to maybe die, it will cut to another scene, and then it cuts back, and oh, suddenly they are not about to die, and oh my God, now they're suddenly about to die again, and then it cuts back. So yeah, it's very predictable in that way. And that's why I feel like Nolan can pull it off because he pulls it off in such more like it's not about something about to happen or not about to happen. It's more of a amplifying like the tension something about to happen is never satisfied until the whole scene is over. And
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of filmmakers get wrong is that they think about it more of like how a TV show ends an episode to set up the next episode, where I think you have to cut in the middle of something happening versus something about to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean
But
I
yeah,
guess it's an
I was
editing
hoping. Oh,
thing.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was it takes skillful editing, I guess, to make it work. But for some reason, it was just a little awkward in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping that scene where the kid goes into Cillian Murphy's private stuff that there was like secretly like a spoon inside of his wife's brain or something, and he was like eating her brains, or he was like some weird human eating like a flesh eating person
Oh
like
yeah,
something like oh like what's her face is in extreme danger, and that's what I was hoping for because like Cillian Murphy he always plays like these weird psychologically screwed up characters.
uh,
And then that would have made sense why he suddenly is like, yeah, I'll go with you to your secret mission. But in reality, it's because he's like a fucking.
mm,
What is the word for people who eat other people?
cannibal,
What
cannibal,
was it?
a
Yeah,
cannibal.
cannibal. Like, yeah, he's like secretly a cannibal or something, and that'll be like, oh, fuck, she needs to get the fuck out of there, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought like what I did think there was gonna be something sinister. I don't know why. Once again, kind of like a weird missed opportunity for
Yeah, and
some
then it's
more
just
tension.
like, and then it was just what like, and then it was like 30 people at that dock,
Oh
and
yeah.
and then he
Oh
had scoped the dock out previously, and he's like, I found boats. So did he not see like the people in the docks or like people around that
yeah, that
area?
was very.
And then what?
I laughed when all the people suddenly emerged from somewhere. They were all
Yeah,
just in their boats, like waiting to emerge. And I was like, what the heck? And then
it
oh,
was.
there's a lot about that scene that was really weird. Like okay, the little girl, and then he goes up to it, and then it's like the little. I don't know if you understood this more than me, but or I missed something. But the little girl does something to his neck, like I like I was like, what did she do to him? Did she stab him? Did she? Because it was almost like he was acting like he just got stabbed or like punched in the throat or something. Like the girl did something to him, but then the girl didn't do anything to him. Did you catch that, or am I was I hallucinating or something? Because it was weird. Because I was like, okay, he leans down to the girl, and then she looks up, and it was almost like a jump scare or something. Like, oh, she did something. She reached out and did something to him, and then he
Yeah,
was like, he had like a shocked or like in pain expression, and then the little girl disappeared, and he was still just there, like in pain or shocked. But then later, he
yeah.
just he just
So
wasn't hurt.
yeah, so she put a like a she put whatever, it was like a rope around his neck, and I guess it
Oh,
clamped immediately. So I think she like swung something over her neck and then like immediately fastened it to where he was in extreme pain and shock.
oh,
And then that rope was tied to like a bunch of cans. So if he moved, he would create an intense amount of
wow.
sound. And that's what he used to
I
grab the. You skip
Yeah,
that whole.
I feel really dumb. Yeah, because I didn't catch any of that. Like
Oh
I was like,
man.
why is he not moving? Why? I thought it was just because the others there were so many of them, so he's like there wasn't much he could have done. I was like, why is he not moving? Why is he not doing anything? I just thought, and then later when he swung into the water and then he was choking, I was like, oh, he just got caught up. I just thought it was an accident that the rope was caught around
Oh
his
no.
neck. Ah, my God. I I
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe that was
Yeah.
just me, but I was like, that was a little confusing because I didn't really catch what was going on there. Yeah,
No,
but
yeah. She tied that around his neck and then he used that to like
yeah,
he like screamed or whatever and then he grabbed the chief pirate dude. And
that
yeah,
was
I
cool.
thought that was a cool thing. The fact that when
Yeah,
the guy was being sliced by the monster, he was being like strangled upwards and downwards. Like I wish that would have continued on. Or like what if the rope would have been stuck to the monster's claw, so he was just
yeah,
being dragged around the ocean. Like and that's the kind of shit that I wish people would do is like, all right, how do we make this even worse instead of how do
yeah,
we solve this immediately? Like I love in in moments of distress, it's like a deck of cards falling, and
yeah.
then everything is just multiplying into itself. And I feel like I don't know, I don't really know many filmmakers that do it well, but I don't know.
Lots of
This film,
missed opportunities. Yeah,
yeah,
and then oh, another thing that kind of felt like it got like retconned from the original movie is okay. Like you remember in the first movie the scene in the basement with where it's already flooding and then the monster dips down and disappears under the water and it's very
hmm
it adds a lot of tension. I like that. That was a cool scene. But then I thought that established that the monsters could swim. That's what I thought that was establishing, is that the monsters could swim. They could breathe underwater and swim, and that's really horrifying. In that scene it was. um, but then in the second one, the monster jumps in the water. I'm like, I was thinking back to that first movie, like, oh yeah, like the monsters can swim. This is horrifying. Like it's going to swim out to him now and eat him. But then it couldn't swim, and then we learn that they can't swim, and then that's the whole thing of the people on the island, is that that's how you escape them, is that they can't swim. I just I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know that I felt misled from the first movie. I thought because that made it even scarier, is that these things can move super fast and they can also swim. So you're not going to escape over water from them. But turns out I was totally wrong about that, and I was like
yeah.
a little disappointed. But
Yeah, yeah. I guess the only thing I'm trying to think is maybe because it wasn't flooded that high, that maybe the
no,
monster
I
could
know.
still stand.
In
But yeah,
hindsight, yeah.
it does set up kind of the idea that they can swim.
In hindsight, yes, yeah. But I was just like, oh, like that kind of I thought. I was misled. That wasn't very clear.
Yeah, and like as soon as it showed that they drowned, I was like, why are all these people just standing on the dock on land? Like,
That's
wouldn't you just
true.
float in the middle of the
Yes.
water and just be like chilling out there?
Yes,
And why
and
didn't they ever go to the island?
why didn't they leave? Why didn't they were all in their boats, right? They were all, it seemed like they were all like living in the boats on the docks. Why were they on
Yeah.
the docks? Why were they tied to the docks? And especially after that, the scene where the guy on the islands, the black guy, like he explains like how when everyone was realized that these things can't swim, and he explains the really tense scene where there were 12 boats on the beach and all the people could have gotten on the boats but they panicked, and so all of them were slaughtered and only two boats were able to escape. And I was like, oh man, first of all, should have shown us that scene instead of telling us
Yeah.
that scene, because
Talk about it.
that would have been such an interesting scene, such an intense, brutal scene that they could have done.
Yeah.
But no, they just tell us that. Um, but then I'm like, yeah, what are these people doing? Just living on the docks. And also, I don't know if you like, they all, their skin was all weird. Was that implying that
Yeah, that
there was something about them that was
they
different?
had syphilis.
Oh,
No.
yeah, I
They
don't.
they were also way too horny.
Oh man, yeah, that was the horny game. Well, I mean, yeah, they were about to. It was implying they were about to do something sinister to the
Yeah,
young
yeah,
girl,
actually,
but
yeah.
um,
Yeah, that is true.
yeah, but I thought it was like setting up that these that maybe they got some disease.
Infected.
Yeah, they were infected with some disease from these aliens, and they were a different
Ugh.
group. But no, nothing. That didn't go anywhere. Maybe in the third movie, but yeah, I don't know. Lots of things about that scene were cool, but then a
Yeah,
lot of things were like just added to the confusion.
yeah. But yeah, I agree. They should have showed that scene with the National Guard. But even that is kind of like a plot hole because it's like how how did the National Guard have that much time to get 12 boats and then to corral that many people and then the monsters come? Like the monsters are insane. Like I feel like they kind of screwed up the whole lore of this film series because the monsters are so overpowered and so fast and so
Yeah,
deadly that like nothing makes sense. Like everyone would just be dead within like an hour. And like
yeah.
having been in the National Guard, there's no way anything is happening in an hour to organize 12 boats. Like especially the guard because they're all like on call and stuff. So like they would have to get to the base, they would have to get dressed, they would have to talk to the commanders, they would have to.
Yeah, and it's like the third, like I guess the third movie, they're like the only, like I'm thinking, okay, how are they gonna expand this movie? And I'm thinking, oh, it's probably like they didn't go to a city. Like we didn't see what it's like in a city, in a big city. And I feel like that would be the next step, I guess, that they'll probably do in the third movie if I had to guess. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what, like we could have seen that because that would have been so interesting to see how did New York City respond to this happening. Like it would be even more interesting. But guess we're gonna have to wait for a third movie. But yeah, it seems like we've lost Anthony. The audio has cut out, and don't know what to do about that. Besides continue ranting, and we'll see if he comes back, if he can reconnect. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep talking about the movie. So one thing that I noticed that we haven't talked about is how did she figure out like where the signal was coming from, the radio signal? Because it's like all of a sudden she knew that like exactly where to go, and all she had was, she didn't have the internet, so all she had was like a map, I guess, that her dad kept from the radio station, and that's it. Like that's all she had as far as clues of where, like how did she figure out where this radio signal was coming from? Second of all, is a huge long shot, like that this song was like a warning, like some kind of meaningful warning. It could have just been like a radio station that just got abandoned and the song was playing over and over again. And then it's like the song was supposed to be a clue that this was like beyond the sea on an island, but at the same time, it seemed like she had pinpointed somehow using the radio signal where it was. So that didn't really make much sense. So I was very confused about that um, aspect of it. But mostly I'm confused about what's happening with Anthony's audio here. Looks like everything's still in place. So we might just pause this stream real quick. And
Yeah, if you want to pause it,
oh, hey,
I'm
you're
having
back. You're back.
yeah, I'm having trouble. I can't for some reason none of my Bluetooth things are connecting and I
Oh
don't
no.
have any wired
Ah.
headphones.
Oops. So is
Um
your Bluetooth just like running out of battery or something?
yeah, like all my headphones are not connecting with my laptop. I can still hear you from my recording device. Can you hear yourself
Yeah.
like echo?
No. No, that's fine.
You can.
So hey, if you can continue like this, then we'll just continue.
Yep. Yeah, I can continue.
All right. Well, I was talking about how I didn't quite understand how the girl figured out the radio signal and where it was coming from. I was like, that was very rushed over because I don't like the song was supposed to be like the clue that, oh, it's beyond the sea, it's on an island. But then also it seemed like she knew exactly where it was. So I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
That kind of
And then
threw me
it's
off.
how did she know that it was beyond the sea? Because the kid never said, "Oh, it's beyond the sea." So
Oh,
like, and if
good
she couldn't
point.
hear the song,
Good
how did
point.
she know it was that song?
Yeah,
The title of the
so
song.
she wasn't using that at all. She was just using the radio signal. So which kind of makes the song kind of pointless.
Oh.
Like why
Yeah.
like she didn't even use the clue of the song, so I don't even
Oh
know.
my God.
And then I was just thinking immediately what I would think if I was in the situation is this is just a radio station that got abandoned and it's just looping this song over and over again. And I even thought that would be really, I mean, if this movie were like darker or more pessimistic, that would have been way more interesting that they arrived there and it is just that.
Oh my God.
It's just an abandoned radio station that's just has this record on repeat and no one is there. And, but I guess that would be a different movie. I don't know.
Yeah. One thing about the island, like I just immediately wanted to laugh when they were getting to the island and then you just see all the people like having a campfire. I was like, that just looks exactly out of an SNL skit. Post
Yeah.
COVID, like new wave Californian type people just having a fucking
Yeah.
barbecue.
It was a little cliche. Yeah.
And
Uh,
everyone was so well dressed and like manicured. I was
yeah.
like, what is this? Like, this some like elite level people just fucking hanging out, having a barbecue.
I was thinking I'm getting strong cult vibes from this. Like there's gonna be some sinister turn to this, but no. It's just
Oh my God.
they were just innocent. And yeah, I thought that was a little too convenient there. Oh, and they were not like suspicious of the newcomers at all. Like they were just immediately welcoming and
Yeah, that
like
that makes no sense.
they would be on guard, would they not? I mean, they have this perfect parrot, this little nice little everything's going right on this little island, and they should probably be super cautious about maintaining that. But
Yeah, or like have people on watch by the water to make sure none
yeah,
of the monsters wash ashore.
yes, yeah, they didn't have anyone watching the shores. Like I don't know, that was weird.
They were just having a great old time. And then like with that, the I think his name is I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's like DGI Digimon
Yeah,
or
very
whatever.
complicated name. Jamon,
Yeah,
probably just Jamon
yeah, Digimon.
Hansal. I
He
don't know.
he's a great actor, but in this movie, it didn't make any sense. Like, so they're escaping from the monster honking the car, and then he's like, "Oh fuck, we drove too fast. I need to go back for my
Oh
family."
God,
And I'm like, "And what fucking like who would ever say that?"
that
And
was
then he just
very
gets
weird.
himself killed. That was like the
Yeah.
stupidest
Yes.
moment.
Yeah, I was like, what? Okay, they drove all that way. The whole point is to lure the monster away. And then he just stands there with the door open. He could have shut that door so fast. And he just stands
Yep.
there freaking out. And you're like, what are you doing, dude? Like, that was one of those stupid decisions where you're just like, really? Like, come on. I don't know. That was really dumb. very dumb.
Yeah,
And
and it
and
makes no s-
I don't get what the play like. I at first I was like, why would they even get in the car with him? Because obviously he's just trying to lure away the monster. I was like,
Yeah.
why would they jump in the car exactly? Did they know that he was going to the radio station? I that
Yeah.
wasn't very clear. So I don't know. That was
Yeah, and then what would like I get the radio station they were gonna play the thing, but I mean, I don't know. Like
they
I
didn't they
yeah, I
didn't
guess
know that they didn't know that that guy was going there right then. Like I
yeah.
would have just assumed that he was luring because he was beeping the horn and everything. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
wanted to go anywhere near that car, and I don't know why the guy would have led the girl there. Like if he's trying to be protective and everything, don't you think they would have just
Yeah.
stayed in the house for then? And I don't know. That was a little weird. Weird decisions. Um, yeah, and
Like that
then
whole scene was more comedic than terrifying. Just seeing all these they're not wealthy, obviously, but they felt wealthy, and I'm just like, I don't care about them. They've had a great time,
they
like, and they're
have,
just
yeah,
being tossed around like rag dolls,
sure.
and I'm just like, this is weird.
Yeah, they've had a generally good time. And we didn't get to know them at all. We didn't get to know that. And I have a feeling that in the third movie, we're just going to move on to some other setting. And we're not even
Yeah,
going to, nothing's going to come of that island. We're not going to, it was just there for, I don't even know. Just
and then
there to move the plot along.
I don't know if you've seen Lost, but that little neighborhood looked exactly like the neighborhood out of Lost.
Oh, yeah, I haven't
Have you
seen,
seen Lost?
have not
Oh,
seen much of Lost besides just
oh.
clips. No, I mean, but
Well,
the whole thing was giving me just strong like Walking Dead vibes. I don't know, just
um,
very this, both of these movies. Just, well, mainly the second one. It's just very strong Walking Dead vibes. That
yeah.
it's just like ugh. They could have done it. Just the aesthetic was very similar, and the different little communities, and I don't know,
Yeah.
a little too
Oh,
similar.
what did you think about this is way back in the beginning, but when
Hmm.
the the son like steps into the bear trap and he's just
Oh,
like screaming like
yes, yeah. I I was just like really like this. What I wrote down. I wrote down. I was like first movie rocket like tiny rocket ship sound equals instant kill. You know, bear trap like screaming. It's just screaming, and nothing comes for like 2 minutes, and I'm just like really.
yeah, and then it's just like one monster.
Yeah, that's true. And it's just like this kid is just like, and not only the screaming, but before that was the gunshots and, you know, just a lot of noise, lots of noise. And the trap that was supposed to draw the monsters anyway, the tripwire that he had set up. So it's like all this noise, and I'm like, really? It's like all that's like there's like a 5 minute delay before the one monster shows up. Yeah. And in the first movie, that's what made it so scary from the get go was them establishing that this tiny little toy sound, like immediately within seconds, like they knew that that kid was like doomed because a monster is gonna just come out of nowhere and just snatch him. Which I did. I admired the first movie. I think that's the only time it went out on a limb was killing a kid, like from the get go,
Yeah.
because that's very rare in horror movies that a kid is
Yeah.
killed, and so it's like, oh, look at that, they went out on a limb. But that's the only time that they went out on a limb for anything in these two movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I was the writer, I would probably kill the baby pretty quickly.
Yeah, like if you, but just yeah, they didn't. The only scene that they got close to like any kind of like existential like kind of feelings like that was when the girl thinks that Cillian Murphy has abandoned her, you know, and she like comes out of the
Yeah.
train car and she's like really emotional, and I was like, oh wow, look at this, like a strong
Mm.
kind of like a really strong kind of negative emotional scene, but immediately he came back and she's like, oh, I guess he didn't abandon me. But besides that, there was just nothing too heart wrenching in these movies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I felt way more in the first film, like when John Krasinski like sacrificed himself. Like I actually
Yeah,
felt like, oh damn, that sucks,
yeah,
and that was a cool. Like it felt kind of meaningful,
true.
and I like, yeah, I wish there would have been another sacrifice. Like I think that would have been a cool trend if in each film one of the family members has to kind of like let themselves go for the other team to keep going. Like, see, in my mind, I thought obviously like Emily Blunt would be the main character, and she would just just her in the film, no Cillian Murphy, and then she has to sacrifice herself for the two kids,
Mm,
and then the third one would be the two kids having to protect the child, like
yeah.
that. In my mind, that seemed like the logical, step forward, and then them kind of uh taking place of the parent type figure or whatever, like the protector. I don't know.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Yeah. It might have been a little too like the
Obvious.
rhythm was the same as the first movie, but but then they already did so much of that that I'm like, I wouldn't have even noticed because they already did the like I the only thing they deviated that surprised me was that Cillian Murphy didn't die sacrificing himself at the very end because
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, he's gonna die. He's about to die. It's gonna be just like the first movie where John
Yeah.
Krasinski sacrifices himself. But no, he didn't have to. I was
No.
surprised. Even though everything else about that climax was the same. Oh, they're in another basement and it is flooding and the
Yeah.
monster is coming in. Oh, and then the girl has the sound and she saves them all at the last minute with the sound. And that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. But then, oh, I, what was the very last thing that it showed? I'm trying to remember. I think it was just that. And then all of a sudden it just cut to black. And it's like, oh,
Oh yeah, it was like the match cut of the son holding the stereo, shooting the monster while she is holding like a pipe, and the
yeah.
her microphone's going off in the background, and then it doesn't make sense because she swings the pipe and it does like a slicing action
Yeah.
through the creature's head, but it's
Yeah.
a round pipe, and then she pulls it out, but you can clearly see that it sliced through like
I
the
guess,
animal's skull.
yeah,
And I was like,
these creatures are very fragile.
but
uh,
yeah, it was like I guess they're both empowered now
they are
through
empowered. Yes.
the sound of music, the
Yes, it
sound of
made
metal.
very clear that they were empowered. Yeah. And yeah. I did can I that mention that reminds me that one of the things that I probably the thing that I liked the most about these movies was just the monsters. It's just the monster design. Every
You
time.
like the monster design?
Yeah, I like the monster design. I liked how they moved. I liked their heads. I liked their big ears. I liked their watermelon exploding heads. Like how it would expand and then contract. Like every time I saw them, I was like, that looks really good. I really like these monsters. I like seeing them. I like how they're designed. I like how they move. So that was like the thing that I liked the most about these movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the whole, the like their whatever pieces of their head just like kind of
Yeah,
flaking outwards and all that.
it's really cool.
But what I don't like is that I feel like, well, I said this before, like they're overpowered, and I feel like their giant knife hands, like that's a little, like I don't see any kind of, like there's no potential, I don't see any drama for you combating this thing. Like I feel like if maybe they just had normal claw hands, like their hands are literally like just giant swords, and I feel like that's just
Yeah, too
it,
much.
you know, yeah, I don't know. Like I wish maybe they just had like giant mouths. Well, they do, and then that's the other thing. They have giant mouths with like 50,000 teeth.
They do.
Like I wish they would just have normal hands or paws or whatever, and then they just like crunch on people. I think that would be more exciting. I don't know. I'm just against knife-handed
All
monsters
right.
because then it's
That's
like you're just swiped. Like you're just like swipe dead,
ain't
swipe.
nothing you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, I don't have anything bad to say about the monsters. That's fine with me. Even their weakness, it's like, oh, that's clever, I guess. That was clever.
Yeah.
But then once you know it, it's kind of ugh, like what else are they gonna do with these movies? I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
so drawn out. Ugh, they could have just made one movie, 1 2.5 hour movie would have
Yeah.
made so much more sense.
I think this would have made a brilliant video game though.
Oh
Like
yeah,
like a survival game where you have to kind of move slowly. Like I don't know. I think that would be
yeah,
pretty phenomenal.
yeah. I could see that video game adaptation. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
seeing how popular this movie was. But yeah, they're definitely gonna get a
Well,
third because it was like I don't know if you saw the headline. You know, all the headlines are like, oh, you know, this is the first movie to break the 100 million or whatever since COVID. Like it's the
Oh, wow.
yeah. It was like had to get a bunch of headlines for that. Like it's the first movie seems to really bring people back to the theaters to see. So that's
Oh,
it's definitely gonna get another, and
yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if it got another, and it just keeps going on and on.
Yeah.
Like,
Which, I mean, that's all right. We'll be around to review it. Maybe that one will
I
be
guess.
like the Godfather 2 of the Quiet Place trilogy.
Oh yeah. All of a sudden, it's gonna get. They need. I think they need to remove John Krasinski from it and just get someone
Yeah.
else to direct it. Get someone else to write. Which it sounded like he didn't really want to do this second one anyway, and they kind of had to pressure him into it. So maybe he
Yeah.
definitely said, "No more, guys. This is the last one that I'm doing." So maybe they'll get someone else, like maybe some other horror director that will put a slightly different spin on it, slightly different style, get some different writers, make it interesting, and maybe
Yeah.
they could just have a really good third movie. I don't know.
Is there anyone that comes up on like in your mind that would make a awesome director for this or writer or
Oh
combo?
God. Mm,
Trying to think.
yeah, like off the top of my head.
I think Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. Oh yeah. Uh, God,
I don't really know
that's
any like
hard.
horror directors. Like,
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know,
really
horror
bad.
directors
That's
aren't really.
same here. I'm really bad at horror directors. Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm hearing an echo. You hear
Of
that?
you?
Yeah. All of a sudden.
Okay. How about now?
Um. No. I think it went away. Nope. No, it didn't. Still hearing it.
Oh crap. Well, anyways, I mean, do you have anything else to say about this film before we wrap up?
Not really. I feel like I've said just about all I can about this film.
Yeah, me too. I am.
You
I'm
feel?
all quiet, placed out.
Yeah, I'm feeling quiet. Ready to move on. Do we want to preview like what we're gonna review next, or do we want to just decide
Well,
later?
I actually, what are I actually don't remember what we decided we were gonna watch
I
next.
think we're gonna watch Black Widow next and
Oh
review it.
yes, dude. Yeah, hell yeah. So, yeah, next week and before Sunday or on Sunday, we will stream and uh, do this whole and be on podcast players on Spotify, iTunes, and all that for Black Widow.
Yep, for sure.
And that will be very exciting because the love of my life is in that film.
Lots to look forward to for sure.
Yeah. Now that's gonna
Yes.
be like a 5 hour podcast.
Oh my
Like,
God, just listening to Anthony wax eloquent about his love. Yeah, I can see it.
mm,
Yeah, but yeah, well, and we'll get the any audio issues. We'll get those sorted out for
yeah.
sure.
This was definitely we didn't prepare or set
No,
up as much as probably we should, but you know, it's the first
it's the
episode, so we were
trial.
like,
It's the
let's just
trial
get
run.
it out.
We got to do it. You know, we'll we'll
Yep.
we'll improve. There's only room for improvement.
All right, man. Thanks for discussing this film with me, and thanks to everyone who listened along through the end. We hope you got something out of it. If you did, you can email us at cineverm@yahoo.com or message us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or leave a comment on YouTube. Or if you watch us live on Twitch, you can comment on there. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.